Okay. Now, I want to switch to international stuff if we could, and having Darin on. Darin, you're one of the folks that just holds the flashlight up and peers into the darkness of this. I mean, what we've been seeing is a complete shift in position by Donald Trump. On Ukraine, he was working toward peace. Of course, the Europeans wouldn't allow it. In my view, they put out terms that were starters to Putin that they knew would never be accepted. They're not acceptable. That he, walk away from Sevastopol and Crimea, and that he retreat back to the lines before the war began. UN troops in the country. These are non-starters, but that's where they're starting because they don't want peace, as I see it. And it seems to me now we're talking about Tomahawks, which can only be fired by the U.S. I don't think the Ukrainians can fire that. Maybe you can clear me up on that if I'm wrong. Um, we are getting, it seems to me, closer to going to direct kinetic war with Russia. Help me out here. Tell me I'm wrong.
I wish I could. No, it seems like we're pushing buttons and we're pushing the wrong buttons. And yes, Tomahawks need American assistance in order to do targeting. But by the way, a lot of the things that we've sent to Ukraine need American assistance in some way, which is why the targeting cell and coordination center that we run to do that is in Kaiserslautern, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, when Putin comes back and says, well, this is a NATO war and this is, all that. And some people say that's rhetoric. It's like, well, it may be, but it's also true, which is the hard part. So,
mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess if I've told people this for a long time now, that if I were in the Oval Office and Trump were to look at me and say, what's the one piece of advice you'd give me about Russia and Ukraine right now? I'd just tell him, walk away entirely and let Europe handle it, and let's move on to other things. We got bigger things and bigger problems to worry about than that. I mean, it's equivalent to fighting over a few counties in one state and saying it's an international problem. And there's other wars that have been going on that for some reason aren't international problems, but this one is. Well, that's the power of the media. So
yeah,
let's pick a war and keep it going, right?
Yeah, you sound a little bit like Brandon Strock with his walk away program, right? Just walk away. Just walk away. And the oh, did we lose Mark? Oh, the reality is we're not going to see anybody doing that. I don't, he's in too deep. The military complex is pushing too hard. I don't know how we get him to actually take that action. And I'm just concerned we're escalating. It's been my view that the military industrial complex, the NATO folks, the Europeans, the globalists, they've wanted U.S. soldiers fighting on the front lines in that war for now a year and a half, 2 years. They've been trying to get us to go in. The fake out by Starmer and Macron when they said they were going to go and send troops in, which we knew they weren't going to do. There's no support for this war in their countries. That was, I think, again, a precursor to getting us in. The pretending that Russia had attacked Poland, so now we got a NATO Article 5, claim that we've got to go in. It seems like they've tried everything they can try to get us to go in, and they're not stopping.
Well, no, they're going to have to do something more blatant and violent in order to try to get that accomplished. Because to send two continents into a major conflict over a few drones in Poland would have been the height of folly, to say the least. And I was laughing because the biggest fight left in France seems to be a handshake between Macron and Trump, and that lasts for far too long as well. Although it's mildly entertaining in the media for a little bit. But I am just what I'm tired of is now that I've been in the media for this many years,
mm-hmm.
Newsmax and Fox and all these different outlets, is when you come in and you give a very clear message that's the opposite of so many others, and you suddenly disappear. And I'm speaking about Fox specifically this time. You kind of know, you can tell by that there's some strings getting pushed. And the example for your audience that I'm using is that I went on to a Fox News interview and I told the show that I was on very clearly. I said there is not a single conflict on this planet right now that requires American soldiers or boots on the ground. Not a one. And I haven't gone back since. But you know, when you
Hmm.
as you have highlighted too, when you listen to the people like Keene and Pillsbury and all these retired generals that seem to go on there, well, I'm sure those are the ones whose strings are getting pulled by Lockheed and various companies making the money off this.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's who's on now. And if you're listening to advice on pundits on the news and you're not willing to go that route with what you say, you're going to get put on the sidelines again.
Yeah, it's true, and I said this once before we were talking. I listened to Jack Keane on. I listen to Fox on Sirius XM, and so I turn it on and I listen to this while I'm doing something or driving, and it's maddening. I mean, he doesn't make any sense at all. He is clearly just pumping out a narrative that he's been asked to pump out. It's the only narrative that you'll hear on Fox. It's not compelling. It's it's really misrepresenting what's going on. And here's what I mean. And I think you may have heard this. I think what they say is that the Russian economy is shattered. Right? It's depleted by the war. The Russian military is depleted by the war. They are not going to be able to continue this. Ukraine has a great shot at winning. They're going to win. And then in the same segment, they'll come on and say, and Putin's about to attack Poland. He's about to attack Poland. He's going to attack NATO. He's going to take Europe. He wants to take France. It is preposterous. It's self-contradictory, but I think there are millions of people sitting at home listening to this and saying, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Common sense dictates a lot of this, or at least it should.
Right.
And I try to paint a picture for people and say, Ukraine is about the size of Texas. And if Texas was its own country, which, depending on who you talk to in Texas, it still is, and the rest of the U.S. was Russia, and we got into a scuffle over 4 or 5 counties in Northeast Texas, is that the problem of the entire world? And does everybody need to come step in and try to resolve that?
Right.
Well, no. And by the way, if Russia is here 4+ years later, still trying to keep those 5 counties, and we're talking Luhansk, Donetsk, and maybe a little bit more, not much.
Right.
Do we really think that they're just going to be able to unimpeded roll into the Baltics and Poland and Romania and Hungary and other nations and say, oh, that was easy?
Right.
Well, no, if they could do that, the bigger prize would be just to roll up all of Ukraine, because there's a whole lot more there than there is anywhere else.
Oh yeah, and they if the mission was to do that, I think they'd be pushing harder. And the thing that really troubles me in this, of course, I don't want to see U.S. troops get involved here on the ground. But in the middle of this Ukrainian people have just been hammered. The Ukrainian economy destroyed. The infrastructure destroyed, and for what? So that they could keep this weird guy in position as dictator for life, or what? What's the plan with this Zelensky? I mean, it is shameful to see the Ukrainian people pay the price they're paying for this fight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is not about, I'm not standing here saying that, Russia good, Ukraine bad, or
No.
Ukraine good, Russia bad. I mean, we know both of this is just thug on thug. We know Russia invaded Ukraine. There's a lot of history there. We've been over many times, and
Yep.
we could cover that in depth. But in the end, which government's corrupt, right? Ukraine, Russia, United States, Europe, answer is yes to all the above. So I stand with the people who suffer the consequences of combat, and that's never the politicians.
No.
And Zelensky's plan I call it the preserve Zelensky's plan.
That's right.
Yeah. He knows when this is over, he actually does have to get to a point potentially of having those elections that are funny little things in their constitution, and he doesn't stand a chance.
No, I don't think so either.
No,
Yeah.
Granted, he's got mansions to go to.
Well, that house in Florida he's got apparently is something to behold. So So, so I think I don't know that Americans are sufficiently alerted to the risk that we're facing with this war in Ukraine. It's my concern is that we're once again going to kind of blindly stumble into a war without understanding the full consequences of what's coming. And the next thing you know, we've got soldiers on the front lines and we're trading missiles with the Russians that, wondering what the Chinese are going to do, disrupting global supply chains, disrupting the global economy, causing, havoc and for what? So the globalists can get a hold of Russia's land people and resources. This doesn't make sense,
Oh
but it
yeah.
feels like the Jack Keens of the world are blindly rolling us into this.
Oh yeah, and China's laughing. And by the way, not only do they have their eyes on the potential for a severely diminished, if not largely ruined, United States economy, they'll be looking north to a historical adversary in Russia and say, you know what, we love that giant gas station that is called Siberia.
Oh yeah. Oh,
There's the
absolutely.
potential for a lot of different chess pieces going directions that are bad for everybody in the world.
Well, and what you just talked about is something that's never talked about, which is that there's a natural division, a natural friction between China and Russia over what the Eastern Oblasts would be, because the Chinese still say those are theirs, right? I think the Chinese still believe they should have control of those eastern side, or far eastern areas of what are part of now the Russian Federation, right? They think they should
Yeah.
own those. And rather than the United States exploiting that friction to bring to divide Russia and China, we're actually pushing the two together.
Yeah, we're providing the glue to make it stick now instead of doing exactly what you described, which is understanding that we need to live in a realistic world where you can't look at Putin and say, "Oh yeah, that's a great guy," but you can't do the same thing with Zelensky either. But what could you do for the greater good of humanity and for the population of the earth in general, anyways?
Right.
That is attempt to pull an orthodox Christian historical based country called Russia with nuclear weapons away from a radical Chinese Communist Party.
Exactly.
And by
Exactly.
the way, North Korea.
So this is North Korea as well. Yeah, and so I think this is dangerous territory. Now, we have to hope that Donald Trump, who has pulled off some incredible achievements in geopolitical affairs, the billionaire that was supposed to be unable to find countries on a map that's already negotiated now 7 peace deals. Um, we got to have some hope that he steps in at some point to this and moves beyond whatever his negotiation strategy is now and actually gets to the peace table and actually gets this resolved. We all know that is a serious goal for him. And the question is simply, can he get these warmongers in Western Europe? Can he get the warmongers in the military industrial complex, the warmongers in Congress to get out of the way so peace can happen? That's really, in my view, the question. Again, how far off am I on this?
No, I think that's actually right. He needs to get the unfiltered opinion of people who actually want to achieve the same goals that he has stated, instead of those who say something and do something different.
Right.
Perfect example is Kellogg is not the guy to have over in Ukraine trying to end a war that his family is profiting from because his daughter runs non-governmental organizations over there.
No.
Anytime you find somebody who financially benefits from conflict, they're the wrong person trying to say that they're pushing for peace.
Yeah, it's time for these NGOs to be defunded by the federal government and to be audited. Um, and we got to figure out where all this money's going and why everybody that's in these NGOs somehow has a tie back to the folks that make the problem occur that they then get paid to fix. Um,
Yeah.
Shifting
Yep.
gears then to the other big topic of the week, right? Is this thing in Gaza where Trump has come up with this 20-point plan? It's been adopted. Hamas, I guess we have to see what they're going to do. It's not a guarantee that they're going to actually adhere to the deal, but it's for the first time a shot at maybe bringing peace to Gaza and maybe setting up a permanent infrastructure that stops this endless war. What is your view on that now? What is it? A week, 10 days, 2 weeks after it got initially announced?
I say it's the best chance you're going to get without looking way into the future at a potential elimination of Hamas entirely, if
Mhm.
that's possible. If that's possible, it's kind of like a war on terror. It turns into a war on an ideology and a thought process more than a standing army. And so, how do you eliminate that? That's a bigger philosophical argument to be had. But I do think it's the best chance we're going to get, and the best plan put forward if implemented. I often say that winning the war is one thing, but winning the peace is often harder. And that's where we're sitting now. Is there a chance that we can win the peace? And we meaning really the world, but primarily Israel.
Yeah.
And to what extent we're involved, which is of course significant. That's the challenge. And so there's a few things there. One, can Hamas keep the terms? Well, they already broke them. The question is, at what point does them breaking the terms equal the IDF rolling back in and finishing the job? That's a decision that will have to be made, because I never thought they would be able to return the remains of 28 killed hostages, because I didn't think they ever knew where they were, all of them entirely. Right. Two, you've got tribal warfare going on in Gaza already, with remnants of Hamas trying to re-exert authority over family groups and other tribes. And this is typical power vacuum, power dynamics. And it's brutal. It's ugly. Nobody wants to see it, but you need to see it because it's real. It'll always be real in these kinds of situations. And so what does that drive? Well, ultimately, that drives the statement that Hamas cannot be in charge of Gaza in any way, or otherwise you end up right back where we were in the first place.
Right. No change.
So how do you prevent that? That's the next question.
But if Hamas doesn't stick to this, if they go back into a full fighting mode, that'll be the end of any restraints. And if this was easy, what has it been? How many months have they been fighting this? We got about 3 minutes left, by the way. They've been fighting this for a while, and it's a 25 by 4 mile piece of ground with 2 million people in it, and it has been significantly damaged, but the Hamas people are still there. So it's not as easy as just walking down the street and taking them out. This is a real fight. I don't know how much fight is left in them, but if they don't stick to this deal, it is going to be the end of any discussion and the end of Hamas. And probably, I think Gaza would then just become completely adopted into Israel. What do you think?
Yeah, I have found that is a necessity in order to actually win this thing. I am standing here, by the way, or sitting here in a car. I'd like you to say hello to future Congressman Jared Sessler.
What's up?
This is Philadelphia.
Hello. How are you?
Conservative Voice Radio.
Oh, awesome.
We are here to promote Chief Warrant Officer 3, Brandon Budge, to Chief Warrant Officer 4 after a 4-year fight with the Department of War and the establishment that crushed him under the COVID mandates. So I flew from Montana here to take part in something that took a lot of years to win.
Wow. So
your help much appreciated.
That's fantastic. I mean, we know that some of the folks have been reinstated. I think some folks got some back pay, but boy, when they started throwing people out of the military, they both harmed the military and harmed those people. It's great to hear that you're helping some folks get back on track here. So
no, I agree. I mean, it's you can provide the best equipment in the world, the most lethal munitions, every bit of it. Spend all the money on it you want, but if you don't have people, talented, aggressive, motivated, centered on the Constitution and the fight for liberty and freedom in America, our actual interests, you don't have a military. You just have a bunch of neat toys.
That's right. That's right. And getting this military culture reset to being a warfighting culture is going to be a breakthrough for the country, I suspect. Certainly will make many of us feel much more comfortable. Now, we've only got about a half a minute left here. Darin, how do people follow you?
The only place I'm not kicked off of social media-wise is on X.
Yep.
The handle is at DL Gaub. That's Gaub. Or you can look at, you can go to daringaub.com, which will take you to my book, which is called Veritas Vincit, which you can find on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and some others. And those are the key ones.
And you can also find Darin on Substack, because that's where I go. I go to
There you
X
go.
and Substack. So thank you so much for calling in. Have a great journey. I hope to hear some stories from the ceremony today. And thank you, everyone, for listening to The Conservative Voice on WWDB AM 860 in Philadelphia.
By texting 64000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from IQ Bar. Message and data rates may apply.